Welcome back to the cafe. And on the sofa this week, Julie and I are joined by Emily Paul. And we're talking to the people and ourselves, because we discovered that we may also be this, who are emotional unspenders. So we see a lot on social media. We see a lot of books and articles in and around this idea of, help, I'm an emotional spender. What can I do? But there's many of us that find spending difficult. I would argue it's still emotional. Maybe it's emotional unspending. But for this one, we are not talking impulse spending. So this might be you. Do you find it hard to spend money? Do you find that when you do spend money, perhaps you feel guilty? Perhaps you're afraid it's going to run out. So on this, I know Julie has a great example to kick us off with. So Julie, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and your emotional spending?
I'm an emotional unspender. My name's Julie. No. So partly what kicked this off is like Catherine, you were saying, is like there's loads of stuff out there about emotional spending, about sort of being aware of it, spotting what your triggers are, what needs are you trying to satisfy by it, and what have you. Oh, hang on a minute. What about people like me? Yes, these are my own private therapy sessions. They're just not very private, are they? But I know because of the clients I work with, my own experience, there's a lot of people that find it difficult to spend money on themselves. And what kicked this off is a couple of weeks ago, I very proudly sent Catherine a message. We've been trying to find it, but we can't find the message. And because we're menopausal, we can't remember exactly the contents of the message. But it was along the lines of, I was showing off, I was really proud of myself because I spent £2,000 in a week on just me. I was letting Catherine know because this is a big landmark achievement that I was able to go and do things just for me and spend that money.
So I was really proud of you doing that, Julie. And I love sharing those wins and the celebrations. But when I read it, it occurred to me that I too would have found that hard because like Julie, I am an emotional unspender. And we had a bit of a chat before we started this room because we're kind of intrigued as to where Emily was at on the emotional spender, unspender spectrum, for want of a better term. So Emily, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, sure. Well, I would say I am on the other end of the spectrum. I probably am a bit of an emotional spender, although I think I've got a healthy control over it now. I think I did tell you last year that I really, really wanted a really nice new bag. It was a Fairfax and Favour bag. And it's the one that, Duchess of Cambridge made a bit famous, I think. And once she's got something on her arm, then everyone wants it. And it's a really classy, ethical British brand. So anyway, I wanted this bag, but it was £365. And I thought, oh, that's a lot of money to spend on an everyday bag. But I decided I was going to have it, but I was not going to just blow money that I didn't have. And I was going to just gradually save for it. So I saved £7 a week and bought that bag myself for Christmas. So that was just an example of how, yes, it was an emotional purchase, but it was one that I could afford, that I kind of felt like I'd earned, and it was in line with my values. So yeah.
And when we spend or don't spend, let's look at the don't spenders, because we don't hear a lot about the spenders. But what do you think's going on? What are the thoughts or the feelings or the reason, perhaps, that some of us find it more difficult to spend than others?
I think I would like to clarify that just a little bit. It's about being able to spend just for you. Because I think there are some we're emotional unspenders. Yeah, I got that right, haven't I? I think there are some emotional unspenders that are going in disguise. Not deliberately.
I may be one of these.
Right.
Go on.
I rather suspect you might be, where you're like, oh, but I bought this thing for myself or this experience, what have you. But if other people were there, I'll give you an example, paying for everybody to go on holiday. Right? Other people are benefiting. But where you can spend money just on you, that's what we're looking to move towards. So Catherine's got a smile on her face.
I have, because that is me. Yeah. I'm really comfortable spending if the children need something. And I do mean need, because I'm quite clear on need and want, and not impulsively, but to make space for that. I can quite happily go to the garden centre and buy something for my mom. I can go out and I can buy something for my husband. But even for me, I struggle So for those that listen often, you'll know that I love wild swimming. Now, it's not an expensive hobby. You go out to a lake, which doesn't generally cost you, and you only have to wear a swimsuit, pair of goggles and a hat. So this is not some sort of luxury hobby that I have. And in a couple of weeks, I'm due to go to Wales with my swimming friend, who's also called Julie. And I need a new swim costume. Now, a swimming costume isn't a big purchase, but when you're trying to buy it ethically, which is really difficult, by the way, and you want it to be a certain color and a certain size, so you need 4 for this particular trip, so you don't contaminate the lakes. It's taken me days to commit to buying the swimsuit because I just felt it was too expensive. And the real root underneath it all, it comes back to what value we place on ourselves. So the voice in my head is, you can't spend that much, you don't deserve it. And I would imagine that sort of feeling about deserve and value may be quite a common one for people who find it difficult to spend on themselves, but much easier to spend on other people.
Yeah, that resonates with me.
Yeah.
So
Can I play coach a little bit, Julie? And
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I'm interested just to know, of the large amount of money that you did spend, was it goods or services?
right. See, I thought people might want to know what I'd actually blown $2,000 on in a week.
No.
Okay, so I think it was 3 things. I can't remember the third thing. The first one was definitely I bought myself a necklace. It's got a lovely sapphire in it. And this is on the back of the work that I did about untangling my relationship with money. So I have a nice untangled chain to represent that.
Oh, that's lovely.
So I think that was about £500 or £600. Then I'm going on a retreat to Loch Tay in October. Can't remember how much that was. Did I buy 3 things? Is it 3 things, Catherine?
It was 3 things. Wasn't it the picture behind you?
Oh,
What does that say? I won't be
shine
allowed to
so
say.
bright that it burns their effing eyes.
Oh.
So the grand total and this is not a regular thing. I'm not spending £2,000 a week. It's just the way it worked. But it was just a big accomplishment because while I got more comfortable spending money on myself, I could have had a wobbly at doing it all in one go. I thought, oh no, well, I need to spread that out. But I'm like, nah. And it's funny because I'd messaged Catherine and I'd been talking to Faith beforehand. And there was a word that Faith used. And she was saying to me, she wasn't using it in a bad way. She just used the word justify. And I don't need to justify it. I can just spend money on myself. So it's like, Emily, it's like I'm trying to learn to be more like
Everyone should try to be more like
well, naturally.
I think the GDP of this country would significantly increase if everyone was like me. Do it for the economy.
Can I just throw in an observation that I've heard from both of you from a different perspective? That it doesn't matter what the number is. There was a sense of 2,000 being a lot or 365 being a lot. I think, Emily, when you described the bag and you said you felt it was a lot, there is no little or lot with our money. If we've earned it or saved it or we have a goal for it, then there is no need to justify it. And there is, whether it's £10 that you've done with reckless abandon or £10,000, it doesn't matter. And I think sometimes the sense of should we or shouldn't we comes from an external sense of, is it right? And this kind of ties in with the judgment that sometimes we have in and around other people's money, which is none of our business. But I think we also have that in and around our own. So with any sort of spending, I would let go of what the amount is. It's just, can you spend well and enjoy it?
Yeah.
Guilt-free for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. I was really glad to hear that the necklace you bought, Julie, was £500-600. Because there's a lot of necklaces in the world, isn't there? But there's not that many. Well, there are probably, but you can go to a shop and buy a necklace for £20-30, can't you?
Oh, I spent months agonizing over this, Emily, finding the right one.
But I just think, as long as you're not doing it all the time, if you just buy that one special purchase that is a bigger purchase, you do place more value on it because that number is bigger and you're saying that I'm worth it. And I just think that you just certainly don't get that feeling when you buy a 20, £30 necklace. Well, it's relative, isn't it? For some
Yeah.
people, that would be a lot of money. It's even 20, £30. And yes, you'd get the same, oh, wow, I'm worth it feeling. But I think it is about relativity. And I was very glad to hear that you bought yourself such a lovely necklace.
Well, thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
I think value is such an important word, isn't it? I do think it's proportional. In that if I've got 100% of money and I spend X% on me, that's telling me I'm valuable. And it doesn't matter how many zeros or after the pound sign for each of us. It's what was that from me. I know you like the word goal orientated, and I did hear Emily say the word control earlier. And we did have a bit of what do you call it when you have a word? It's not a prefab, that's like a house, isn't it? Really talk about things in the background before the word will come back. I like values led, but the ultimate thing is to get to enjoying spending without. How would you guys, what advice would you give to someone perhaps who has money or has some money they would like to spend on themselves on something, but feels guilty afterwards?
I would say it's all in the preparation and the research. And an example of that is I worked with a style coach a few years ago. I think when I was younger, before children, I think I did feel guilty about spending a lot of money on clothes. I don't think I bought a lot of clothes compared to some people, but when you're in your 20s and you're living in London and you do have a little bit of disposable income, it's very easy to go out shopping and buy stuff. And I felt that when I was going out and doing that, I was most time not being prepared with like a shopping list of things that I needed, or I hadn't really given it much thought. I hadn't like looked at magazines and thought, oh, that's a nice jacket. I'd like a jacket. And I'd literally walk into a shop, sometimes gravitate towards the sale rail and think, oh, what bargains are there? And then I'd buy stuff that, maybe weren't quite right. Maybe there was no occasion perhaps for wearing the thing that I'd bought, but I'd buy it because, I felt like I was getting a bargain. And then you'd get it home. And maybe it's all right that night and you hang it in the wardrobe. It's the next day and then you open the wardrobe and you think, why did I buy that? So I think it's all in the prep. And when I worked with my style coach, we did a lot of coaching, as you would expect. Beforehand, we talked about, my values. We talked about the image I wanted to portray, my business brand, and all of these things, and my shape and size and colors and all of that. So this is a bit of an extreme example of preparation, but the next time I went shopping was with her by my side. And in the background was all of that preparation that we had done. And we had written a list as well of the things that we really felt that we needed to add to the wardrobe.
Oh, do you know what's popping into my head? Remember intentionality.
Yes, that's exactly the intentionality, yeah.
Oh, that's really good advice there, Emily. Can I ask you a question, Catherine?
Yes.
The swimming suit.
I knew you were coming back to that.
So expensive swimming suits, especially if you need the ones that hold the wobbly bit in.
I don't have that.
I don't think so, but yeah,
I got the ruler when it came out to body shapes. Like you can be the straight one there, top one. But yeah, I think now more expensive than you think they should be. Maybe that's what some of it is. But go on, Julie. I'm intrigued. I knew it was about swimsuit, but go on, ask me anyway.
Right, because as we all know, it's not about the swimsuit, is it? It's a bit like Brian always says, it's not about the toothpaste. When couples fight over the toothpaste, it's not about the toothpaste.
No.
This is not about the swimsuit, is it, Catherine?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it's about?
I think I probably was quite honest with myself when I recognised I did buy it, by the way. I don't feel guilty. And it's a lovely teal colour.
Are you going to tell us how much?
I think it was about 90. So I think it was recognising that I was overcoming a sense of not deserving it. So I think that's the difference, is there would have been times where I wasn't aware of that. It would have been dismissed much sooner, or I would have gone on, do you buy secondhand swimsuits? But if it was a different item, I would have maybe gone on eBay and bought something secondhand, or I'd have thought that one will do. So that movement, I think, comes from all of the work that we do together and the coaching in and around it. It was being able to recognize that I deserved it, and that the block for me was in and around my value, and my value being transcribed over to that, even though that was a hobby of mine. But yeah, I do find it hard, and it does come back to that. And those rings. So go on.
Okay, now that's interesting because I hear this kind of thing a lot. with the people that I work with. And obviously, you now are the owner of the most fantastic swimsuit. But it's that journey from the resistance to buying it to now actually owning it, and the thoughts that had to go on in
Yeah.
that middle bit. Because I'm sure there's loads of people that are listening to this that are saying, oh, well, I saw this thing I want, but then I'm looking around to see if I can get it a little bit cheaper, or can I get it secondhand? And it's, why do we do that to ourselves, Catherine?
So sticking with the deserve and value, keep that one there. But I think the second part, and I'm talking again personally because I think it does apply to others, is this mindset of scarcity. So I know I've been candid before about my young adulthood being, it was financially very tight. And there was always a fear that it was going to run out. So when you've got a minimum amount and you're raising a family and yourself in that, it's natural, I guess, that others are going to come before us. And that's before we even consider, are there gender traits for us as women, not putting ourselves on the top of our to-do list. I'm going to pause on that one. But the fear of money running out, if I go and buy this thing and then tomorrow something comes up, so that is very much in the mind. I can't spend this because it will run out. And I think that probably is quietly, unconsciously affecting people who want to spend but aren't able to spend. And then when you couple that with this idea of being valuable and deserving, that you don't deserve to have that, you don't deserve to treat yourself, or you can't justify that value item or the value of you, and you put the two of those together. And then you have, I think, clients that we see where they save and they don't spend on themselves, and they don't know how to and how to do it whilst enjoying it. I always say that money should be enjoyed. So it's there and it could be used and they could be treating themselves. But these two big factors of scarcity and value are playing out and shaping their behavior.
That's really interesting. And I think we have covered now value and self-worth and scarcity. And you asked in our pre-chats if there was any other reasons why we have difficulties in spending money on ourselves. And it has just occurred to me, judgment.
Oh,
We are worrying sometimes, I think, what other people will think of us if we spend that money on something. And it's often people who we know wouldn't be spending that money on something. I mean, I just have words in my head, and they're not words that I can hear myself saying, but they're words that I can hear other people saying, like my mother and my mother-in-law, because they grew up in a different era. They weren't career women. They didn't have their own money. And therefore, if they were to spend a lot of money on something, they would probably feel that that was obscene. But it, like, coming back to the success episodes that we talked about how when we hear people having an opinion, we need to just check that it's our opinion and not someone else's. And I think that judgment is definitely on that list of things that can sometimes stop us from spending money. Yeah.
I think that's a really, really powerful point. There's two things pop into my head as you're saying that. First one is wine. All right, so anybody that goes out to dinner with me, right, you're getting warned. Okay, I will not have the cheapest bottle of wine on the list. I will have the one that I like.
I'll come out with you, Julie.
I'm in
So Amanda, I think Amanda, friend of the show, cringes anytime I get hold of the wine list.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes I'm conscious now that, oh, I'm going to have that one. I don't really like that one very much, and I'd rather have that one. But it's like you're saying, I'm like, it's like other people. But then the other thing that popped into my head is, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was sitting with Owen, my son, and he had some money to spend. And Owen agonizes over making a financial decision because he wants to get the biggest bang for his buck. Yeah. And so it's just that we've introduced a new phrase to him assessing his spending habits. And the starting question is, will it bring you joy?
I love that question.
If it brings you joy and you can afford it, buy it.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to figure out, yeah, but if I did this, would that be better? And if I did that, would that be better? Just that thing, will it bring you joy?
Yeah. I think there's also a distinction often between spending on goods and spending on services, which is why I asked you before.
Yeah.
So when I say services, I mean experiences. So a holiday, a theatre trip, not something that's physical that you can put on a shelf at home and display to the world and look at. But memories, we just cannot ever underestimate the value in memories. especially with our loved ones who aren't going to be here forever. And yes, you can have memories of things that don't cost anything, a walk in the countryside, and this or that. But for me, sometimes it's that meal out with the family at a really nice restaurant for a special occasion. I mean, that's a lovely memory. And
Family's
frankly,
list.
it just wouldn't be the same memory if it gone to McDonald's, would it?
What the no, it'd been a different one.
It would have been a different one. But it wouldn't, for me, it wouldn't have been that feeling of this lovely, we're being
It's
looked
special.
after by lovely waiters and waitresses. The attention to detail is there. The food is delicious. It's everything. Every sensory thing, tick. Love that.
Can I ask, lady, if someone is listening who also finds that they are an emotional unspender, what kind of tips, maybe some practical tips to start with? Because I know we've covered some of the emotional, we can come back and round those up, but what sort of tips would you give to someone to help them go through the journey that certainly Julie and I have been through, to go from emotional unspending to enjoying spending? That will it bring me joy? And can I do it guilt-free? And can I do it? Tips, ladies?
Okay, as a reformed, I'm a reformed emotional unspender. I keep wanting to put the "on" in the wrong place.
Unreformed.
Because I haven't been through this myself, and I work with a lot of clients like this. What has worked is starting small. So picking little things and then gradually going slightly larger. So everybody's budget's different. And it's not even necessarily about the pounds spent. It could be the time, but it's sitting down. I guess it's tying in with what you were saying, Emily, because I thought that was genius about being intentional. So if you're someone that finds it hard to do this, you need to sit down and write a list, or as somebody else we both know, got a Trello board, inspired, and just start writing down things that you could buy for yourself and incrementally get them bigger and bigger to build up your tolerance. Because I did not go straight in and spend the £2,000 on myself for a week. It was little things. So one of the first things I did was I bought myself some flowers. And just, it's almost like, what is it? Is it aversion therapy? You have to increase your tolerance and get greater exposure to the thing, exposure therapy. I don't know. But so that's my tip, is sort of stealing Emily's idea of being intentional and get a list and then decide what are the conditions where you get to go and get that thing.
That is a really good tip. And you just reminded me that actually perhaps I am not only certain blocks. Once a month, I order flowers for myself, and they're lovely. They come in a box, and then I spend a nice half an hour. I call it like floral yoga. And that's my thing. Nobody else really benefits from the flowers. I live with 3 men. They're not bothered whether there's nice flowers in the porch, but that's valuable to me. So that was part of my reforming. And I think it's an ongoing process, isn't it? There's always going to be another ceiling or another block or another opportunity to get curious about why we think and feel and do what we do with money. But starting small and practicing, it's a new habit, isn't it? It's going to take time to get. And I do also like your suggestion, Emily, of the preparation, kind of signing up for it, being intentional and prepping for that. What if someone's tried and they're still really struggling? What would we say to them?
Well, I think that if you can't fix it by just thinking about it yourself and considering your feelings around certain purchases and then incrementally increasing and that kind of thing, I do think that you possibly do need to speak to somebody, a coach stroke therapist, seriously, because I just find it really sad watching people go through life saving money and getting to a point where at the end of their life, they've got a lot of money sitting in the bank, but they just, and maybe it's my judgment, and maybe it doesn't matter, but I don't like seeing that people haven't valued themselves. I would like to feel that certainly in the last decade or so, or when you've still got your health to enjoy it, I think you need to reach a realization that this is not a dress rehearsal, that life will pass you by if you just worry about the money and siphon it all away. You've got to think about that money not being money. That money is opportunity. That is money to do all sorts of amazing things and it's a bigger picture than just the number on the bottom of the bank statement. And I think that's what's really sad to me when I see clients who have all this money and living so frugally, not going on holiday, just overvaluing that money thing and not valuing themselves enough.
That's so powerful. Shall I share the thing that tipped me over the edge to make me become reformed? I am reformed.
Please.
Yeah. Because what you were saying, if someone's trying it and they still can't they can't do it. What did it for me was the realization that this is a pattern that I'm going to pass on to Owen. So I need to change that so that he can see that it's okay for him to do it.
Yeah.
So it's the impact and that you're having on other people and just demonstrating good habits to your children if you've got them. But just if you don't value yourself, nobody else will.
I think there's a lot of us parents, and that's a really good example of we sometimes are better at helping ourselves. We're trying to help someone else. So it's the time of the money. But I would just add to that, to do that totally without self-judgment and guilt, shame. So in the same way that you've described there, that our children potentially pick up our patterns, we've picked up our patterns from those who've come before us as well. So it's not to judge them or to judge ourselves. It's just the way we are. We learn things and we have an opportunity to unlearn. We have an opportunity to return that behavior and take out a new one. So I know that I've shared before that my mom was brought up by her grandma. So it's almost like generationally, a lot of the messages that were coming through to her were wartime. And it was frugal, it was scarce. There wasn't a big sum of money. And to the point where even your food was rationed. Now, those beliefs and that fear is going to come through in our behaviors and our language. So in the same way that we pass down is just to take space that we've learned these and we can choose to unlearn them. But to do that without blaming the generation above or being too harsh on ourselves.
I don't know whether this is a true statistic or I've just made it up, but I think I might have heard it somewhere. So I'm going to repeat it. And it's something like it's 5 times harder to correct or change a good habit than it is to change a bad habit. And we all know how hard it is to change a bad habit. So it is hard, this business of spending and valuing yourself.
So it's 5 times harder to install a good habit than it is to break a bad habit.
No, to break a good habit, to change a good habit.
Oh, so good habits are strong.
So a good habit would be this idea of, I'm saving all my money for the future and But then if you get into your future, you get to a point in life where you don't have to worry about any money anymore. It's incredibly difficult for that person to suddenly not, stop saving the money or to stop shopping in Aldi rather than Waitrose.
This is just feeding into my fear that financial advisors, we are doing a rubbish job. We get people to spend half their life saving all the money, and then the next half of their life spend it all. And like, there's mixed messages here, guys. I think we could do a better job.
Yeah,
it's finding the right financial planner, isn't it, or coach? The one that works for you. Everyone's different.
And I just have one caveat onto what you just said, Emily, because I think you're right. I would argue there's no good habit or bad habit. They're just habits. They're just habits. So to anyone with any habit, look at it from both angles. What does this do that's helpful? And what does this do that's not helpful? And kind of you've got this balance then is, okay, well, is the thing that this is helping me with actually what I want? And that's that curiosity, that self-reflection. So maybe that makes it easier to break some because they're just habits.
Oh, do you know what's popped into my head? Just a little thing, a little tiny thing for people to try. We're just trying to break the patterns and have new habits. So this is something that I've done. I'm pretty sure Catherine does it as well. But if you're doing internet shopping, right, and you've got the page up of whatever the thing is that you're shopping for, and you go into the filters, and you can start choosing what size you want, what color it is, and then you've got the sort button. Now, default, if you may, you sort from low to high, because I want to see how can I get what I want at the most price efficient point. So if there's one tiny thing to change is don't use that filter. Leave it alone and see if you can just slowly start breaking the patterns and the habits.
Yeah, you just have to scroll through and see what catches your eye and worry about the price secondary.
So on that note, I'm just going to wrap up that there are spenders and there's unspenders. That would we all agree that it's an emotional response, whichever option it is. And some of the key things that we thought centered that was being valuable, how we value ourselves. A lot feeds from scarcity, the fear that we're going to run out of money. And the patterns can be changed, that there's no good habit, there's no bad habit. And if you are one of the unspenders, is that right?
It is, it's hard, isn't it?
An unspender, then some of the tips would be to start small. I liked Julie's suggestion of just buying something small, get used to treating yourself, getting used to enjoying that guilt-free, goals-based. Emily's idea of being very intentional, getting your preparation. Julie demonstrated it. I don't think we actually named it, but to actually share and celebrate that success, because like everything, if you've gone out and run a 5K, you want to share that you've done that. So if you're learning positive new behavior that you want to learn, and that should be celebrated too. Else to wrap up, ladies, any last nuggets or just a recap on something that you thought was valuable that we've shared already?
And I just say, I want to give a little bit of context to my spend message. I don't want to be held responsible for people spending their life savings and
handbags,
leading frivolous lives.
Emily, you're okay. There's a disclaimer at the end.
Okay. I just want it to be in the context of being able to afford it. And it's in the intentionality and being driven by your values that will make sure that that purchase is the right one for you. And you know it when it's not, because, it doesn't sit right. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any last thoughts, Julie?
I've got a request for people listening. Okay. So those of us that are still reforming, unreformed, whatever, if this episode's spoken to you and you're inspired to go out and buy something for yourself, whatever small thing it is, would you give us a mention on social media? This is purely selfish reasons, because I want to build up my list of things that I can treat myself to. So if we all pool our ideas, it's going to make it a little bit easier for us all to start treating ourselves.
I think I'm going to be booking a spa weekend after this, Julie, and blaming you.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. You can come while swimming in Wales if you wanted. You can treat yourself to a swimming costume.
Yeah, might have to hide my wobbly bits though.
And so on that note, that's the end of this episode. Thank you very much for listening.